If marriage is supposed to feel like home, why do so many men feel exhausted right after the honeymoon? Marriage is sold as a sanctuary, a safe resting place, a place of peace, a place of joy. But for countless men, that dream collapses almost overnight. The gap between what they expected and what they experience is the real marriage trap. In this video, I will reveal 3 hidden gaps between fantasy and reality. Each one is a flame disguised as moonlight, pulling men in with the promise of comfort, only to burn them when they get too close. Stay with me, because by the end, you will understand why so many men get burned by marriage, and how you can protect yourself before it is too late. Reason 1. Men expect peace, but they find chaos. The very first thing men expect from marriage is peace. Men dream of a home that feels like a sanctuary. After a long day of work, after fighting the battles of the outside world, a man wants to walk into his house and finally relax. He wants a place where he can breathe, where he can be himself without judgment, where his soul can rest. That is the fantasy. The reality is different. The reality is that many men find themselves surrounded by constant arguments. Women love to argue. Women thrive on conflict in a way men do not fully understand. When men are with other men, arguments are rare and short, because men know the risk. When 2 men argue, there is a real chance that someone might get punched in the face. Men learn early in life that arguing too much is dangerous. That is why men prefer to solve problems rather than debate endlessly. But with women, the pattern is different. When a man faces a problem, he wants to puzzle it out, to find a solution. When a woman faces a problem, she wants to talk about it, to argue about it, to seek emotional recognition. She wants her feelings validated. So when a man tries to solve a problem directly, the woman interprets it as him not listening, or not caring, or not respecting her feelings. What he sees as a practical solution, as she sees as a refusal to connect. And so the cycle begins. The man expects peace. The woman brings chaos. The man wants a solution. The woman wants recognition. The man avoids conflict. The woman creates conflict. This difference slowly erodes the man's dream of peace. Instead of feeling safe in his own home, he feels drained. Instead of looking forward to coming home, he starts to fear the next argument. Here is the bitter truth. Marriage does not automatically bring men peace. If you enter with the fantasy that peace will be handed to you, you will be disappointed. Peace is not a gift. Peace is a skill. The only way to create peace in marriage is for the man to keep his rational tether, to remind himself that arguments are not about truth or falsehood. They are about feelings. If he expects his wife to stop arguing and suddenly become logical, he is setting himself up for frustration. But if he learns to anchor himself, to stay calm, to set clear boundaries, then he can create his own peace regardless of the storm. This is the first lesson in the marriage trap. Men expect peace, but they must learn that peace comes from within, not from her. Reason 2. Men expect friendship and respect, but receive judgment. The second thing men expect from marriage is friendship. When a man looks for a partner, he believes that with romance will also come companionship. He imagines that love will naturally include loyalty. That commitment will bring respect. That partnership will carry acceptance. These are the qualities men take for granted in their relationships with other men. When men are friends, loyalty is assumed. Respect is automatic. Acceptance is natural. There is no need to constantly negotiate for it. It is simply there. It is the foundation. So men enter marriage with the assumption that the same foundation will exist. They believe that friendship will be at the heart of the union. That loyalty will be the default. That respect will flow both ways. That acceptance will be mutual. But here is the harsh reality. Many men discover that these qualities do not automatically appear inside marriage. Instead of unconditional friendship, they encounter constant testing. Instead of steady loyalty, they feel the threat of withdrawal. Instead of respect, they experience subtle or direct criticism. Instead of acceptance, they face endless attempts at reshaping who they are. The man expected a friend. He finds a critic. The man expected a partner. He meets a judge. This is one of the deepest shocks in the marriage trap, because the man not only loses the fantasy of friendship, he also feels betrayed. He thought marriage was a safe place where his true self could exist. But what he finds is that his true self is often the target. The woman measures him not by who he is, but by who she thinks he should be. She holds herself to an idealized version of womanhood, and she also holds him to that same impossible standard. When he fails to act like that ideal, as she judges, she concludes he is less, not enough, a flawed copy of her imagined perfection. And so the man learns a painful lesson. What he thought was unconditional friendship is in fact conditional approval. It is given when he behaves according to her script, and it is withdrawn when he acts like himself. Imagine the difference. Among men, if you disagree, you might argue, but once the discussion is done, respect remains. You are still friends. The bond is not broken by a difference of opinion. With women, disagreement often feels like rejection. When you do not mirror her perspective, she does not only think you are wrong, she often believes you are defective, less intelligent, less evolved, a bad version of what she imagines a partner should be. This gap between expectation and reality is brutal. The man expected loyalty, but loyalty is not given freely. It is tested again and again. The man expected respect, but respect is conditional. It comes only when he fits into her frame. The man expected acceptance, but acceptance is rare. More often, he is treated as a project, something to fix, something to improve, something to mold into the ideal she holds in her mind. This constant judgment eats away at a man's spirit. Slowly, he feels less like a husband and more like a student, always failing the exam. He wanted friendship. He wanted the kind of loyalty and respect he has known with men his whole life. Instead, he finds himself on trial every day. Here lies the second bitter truth of the marriage trap. Friendship inside marriage is not guaranteed. Respect is not automatic. Acceptance is not unconditional. If you enter with the fantasy that marriage will give you a best friend, you will face disappointment. If you believe respect will flow freely, you will face disillusionment. If you expect acceptance without condition, you will face pain. The only way forward is to keep your rational tether, to understand that friendship in marriage must be built, not assumed, that respect must be earned and guarded, that acceptance must come first from within yourself. Because if you do not accept who you are, her judgment will crush you. Men must learn this second lesson. Do not walk into the marriage trap expecting a partner who will be your loyal friend no matter what. Walk in with eyes open. Understand the test. Prepare your mind. Protect your boundaries. Only then can you keep your dignity intact. Reason 3. Men expect kindness and intimacy, but receive conditions. The third thing men expect from marriage is kindness. When a man enters a relationship, he hopes for support. He hopes for nurturing. He hopes for a gentle presence that softens the hard edges of life. He dreams of connection. He imagines kindness as the natural language of love. This is the fantasy. The reality is often different. Many men discover that kindness is not given freely. Kindness becomes conditional. It is offered only when the man behaves in a certain way. It is withheld when he does not meet expectations. Think of it like this. A woman may treat her man the same way she treats a pet. She gives rewards when the behavior pleases her. She withholds affection when it does not. Kindness is no longer a gift. It is a tool. It is a form of control. The man thought he was entering a relationship where kindness flows naturally. Instead, he enters a system of rewards and punishments. He becomes the subject of constant evaluation. There are exceptions. There are women who are naturally kind, who put the needs of others ahead of their own. These women exist, and they are treasures, but they are rare. The common experience for men is that kindness is measured and conditional. This is the first part of the third lesson. Kindness is not guaranteed. Kindness is not constant. Kindness is often tied to performance. The second part of the lesson is about intimacy. For men, physical intimacy is more than pleasure. It is a bridge. Through sex, men form emotional bonds. Through physical connection, men build psychological and even spiritual ties. Every encounter renews the bond. Every moment of intimacy makes the relationship feel stronger. Men need it. They rely on it. But women often see intimacy differently. For them, sex is a tool. It is a way to attract a man. It is a way to hold him. It is a way to gain influence. So when the relationship is new, sex is abundant. But as time goes on, the frequency changes. Intimacy becomes another form of currency. It becomes conditional. It is withheld as punishment. It is offered as a reward. The man enters marriage, expecting that intimacy will deepen the bond. But what he finds is that intimacy becomes leverage. Instead of being the foundation of closeness, it becomes the battlefield of power. This realization hurts deeply. For men, intimacy is the gateway to emotional connection. When intimacy is withheld, the man feels cut off from love itself. When intimacy is rationed, he feels starved, not only physically but also emotionally. The marriage trap here is brutal. The man expected kindness. He expected warmth. He expected a partner who would embrace him as he is. What he receives instead is conditional approval, conditional kindness, conditional intimacy. It is a system that leaves him confused and empty. He wonders why the woman who once seemed so affectionate now feels distant. He wonders why the bond that once felt so strong now feels weak. He wonders if he has done something wrong or if he is simply not enough. Here lies the third bitter truth. Do not expect kindness to flow automatically. Do not expect intimacy to be unconditional. Kindness will often be tied to your behavior. Intimacy will often be used as leverage. The man who enters with the fantasy that these things are guaranteed will face disappointment. The way out is again the rational tether. The man must remember that his worth is not defined by conditional affection. He must not beg for kindness. He must not chase intimacy like a starving man at a banquet. He must ground himself in self-respect. He must recognize the pattern and refuse to let it control him. Conditional kindness is not true kindness. Conditional intimacy is not true connection. A man must learn to see through the illusion, to enjoy what is real, but to never mistake manipulation for love. This is the third lesson of the marriage trap. Men expect kindness and intimacy, but what they often receive are conditions and control. We have walked through the marriage trap step by step. Men enter with the fantasy of peace, but they often find chaos. Men expect friendship and respect, but they often receive judgment and criticism. Men expect kindness and intimacy, but they often discover conditions and control. These three lessons show us the truth. Marriage is not a guarantee of happiness. It is not a sanctuary by default. It is not the safe home that men are promised in stories. This does not mean that love is impossible. It does not mean that relationships are meaningless. It means that fantasy must be separated from reality. It means that men must learn to see clearly. The danger comes from idealization. When men put women on a pedestal, when they imagine that marriage is the light of the moon, they become like moths. They fly blindly into what they believe is safety. But the light is a flame, and the flame burns. Every man must remember this image. The moth does not survive the fire. The man who loses his rational tether does not survive the marriage trap. So what is the answer? What is the way forward? The answer is not to avoid love completely. The answer is not to reject every relationship. The answer is to remain tethered, to keep one foot in the rational world, to never allow yourself to be fully consumed by fantasy. Think of it as a vacation. When you go on vacation, as you enjoy the place fully, you act as if you live there. You walk the streets. You eat the food. You feel like a local. But deep down you know that one day you will return home. You know the vacation is temporary. Love is like that. Romance can feel like a new world. It can feel like life 2.0, and you should enjoy it. You should feel the joy. You should allow yourself to experience intimacy, laughter, and closeness. But never forget that your home is your rational mind. Never forget to return. When you stay tethered to reason and you protect yourself, you keep your boundaries clear. You avoid the spiral of constant failure to please. You avoid losing respect. You avoid losing yourself. Because once you surrender fully, once you enter her frame without resistance, the respect is gone. And when respect is gone, the relationship begins its slow collapse. It is only a matter of time before the bond breaks completely. So the challenge for every man is this: enjoy love, enjoy intimacy, enjoy the fantasy for what it is, but do not mistake it for reality. Do not confuse the vacation for home. Anchor yourself in self-respect. Anchor yourself in truth. Anchor yourself in the rational tether that keeps you steady. This is how you can survive the marriage trap. This is how you can walk through life 2.0 without losing your soul. This is how you can protect your dignity, your sanity, and your freedom. Remember the moth. Remember the flame. Remember the vacation. And most of all, remember the tether. Stay healthy. Stay clear-minded. And if you can, stay single.